My name is Nora Ellis, and I'm 28 years old. This past weekend, my parents made me cook and clean for my sister's birthday party. 50 guests, the entire weekend, completely alone. I prepped food for 3 days straight, barely slept, and by Saturday afternoon, I was so exhausted I could barely stand. When I finally asked my mother for help, she didn't just say no. She laughed. Then, in front of a room full of guests, she said, "You're the only one without a real job. You have the time." What my mother didn't know was that I had just signed a contract worth more than my sister makes in a year, and what none of them knew was that my new CEO was standing in that room, listening to every single word. It started 2 weeks before Jade's party with a text from my mother at 9 in the evening on a Tuesday. "Jade's birthday is coming up. She's very busy with her big case, so you'll handle everything. 50 guests. I'll send you the details." Not a question, a directive. I stared at my phone, sitting in my tiny apartment, surrounded by 3 monitors, displaying the brand concept I had been refining for Hartwell Corporation. The initial presentation was in 4 days. I had been working 16-hour days for a week straight, barely sleeping, living on coffee and the kind of focused intensity that happens when you know you're creating something extraordinary. My mother's response came before I could finish typing my reply. "Honey, you work from home. You have flexibility. Jade is in court all week and has partner review coming up. This is what family does." There it was. That word. Flexibility. It was her code for your work. Doesn't matter as much as Jade's. This wasn't new. Last Christmas, I'd cooked for 23 people while Jade mingled with relatives, accepting compliments on her career. At her law school graduation, I designed and printed 200 programs, stayed up all night making centerpieces, and arrived at the ceremony to hear my father tell someone, "Jade organized all of this herself." Such a capable girl. When I quietly mentioned I had helped, Mom had patted my hand. "Well, you had time to help, didn't you?" I looked at the Hartwell email sitting in my inbox. Subject line: Final review meeting, Thursday. Prepare for executive board. I had 4 days to perfect a presentation that could change my entire career, but I texted back, "Okay, send me the details," because that was what I always did. The grocery list arrived at midnight. 3 pages. Appetizers for 50, a full dinner menu, and a dessert spread that required ingredients from 4 different stores. Wednesday, I drove to 3 grocery stores before my workday even started. Thursday morning, I was on a video call with Hartwell's executive team, presenting my concept. The CEO, Elliot Warren, appeared on screen for the first time. Mid-50s, sharp suit. The kind of presence that makes everyone sit up straighter. "Ms. Ellis," he said, studying my presentation with genuine interest. "This brand narrative is exceptional. You've captured exactly what we've been trying to articulate for 3 years." He mentioned he would be in my city that weekend visiting an old college friend. My heart jumped when he said the name. That friend was my father. Saturday morning at 7. I had been in my parents' kitchen since 6, prepping vegetables, marinating meat, setting up the coffee service. Jade came downstairs at 10 in silk pajamas, her hair in rollers. She frowned at the menu list and mentioned 3 of her guests were keto, asking me to improvise something different. I had assembled the lasagna at midnight. She left before I could respond. Mom appeared and told me the bathrooms needed cleaning because the cleaning lady had canceled, then left to help Jade get ready. By noon, I was running to the grocery store for keto ingredients, still wearing the clothes I had slept in. By 2, the doorbell rang. I was elbow-deep in raw chicken, my hair in a messy bun, wearing an apron splattered with tomato sauce. By 3, the house was full of people I didn't know, wearing clothes I couldn't afford, discussing careers I wasn't part of. I moved through them like a ghost, refilling drinks, collecting plates, retreating to the kitchen every few minutes to check timers. In the only place I could lock a door, I finally looked at my phone. 7 missed calls. A voicemail from Elliot Warren's assistant confirming our contract meeting and saying he was very eager to move forward. The word contract hung in my head as I washed my hands and returned to a kitchen full of dirty dishes. A kind-faced woman in her 60s approached the kitchen and asked if Madison had hired a caterer. "No, I made everything," I told her. Her eyebrows rose. "All of this? Are you a professional chef?" I told her I was actually a graphic designer and Madison's sister. Her name was Patricia, a colleague's mother. and she asked what kind of design work I did. Before I could finish answering, Mom appeared with bright smiles, steered Patricia away, and said, "Let me introduce you to Jade. She's about to make partner at one of the best firms in the state." I stood there holding a tray of bruschetta, invisible again. Then a man's voice behind me. "Those look excellent." I turned, late 50s, expensive suit, holding a gin and tonic. Something about him was familiar, and then my stomach dropped. Elliot Warren, the CEO of Hartwell Corporation, the man about to offer me a $240,000 contract, standing in my parents' kitchen, watching me serve appetizers in a sauce-stained apron. By 6:45, I was pulling the prime rib when Mom's laughter rang out from the living room. The performative kind she used when she wanted everyone paying attention. "We always thought she'd grow out of the art phase," she was telling someone. "But she's still at it, freelancing from home, making her little designs on the computer. Cora's always been more of a free spirit, doesn't want to be tied down to a real job." Several people laughed. Polite, uncomfortable laughter. I stood in the kitchen doorway, still holding the carving knife. Mom's back was to the kitchen, so she didn't notice, but Jade did. Our eyes met across the room. She looked away. I stepped back into the kitchen before anyone could see my face. My phone sat on the counter, glowing with a new email from Warren's assistant. Subject: contract ready for signature. $240,000. More than Jade made in her first year as an associate. Sitting in my inbox while I carved meat in their kitchen, listening to them explain why my career wasn't real. When Mom called out for coffee, like summoning staff, something shifted in me. Elliot Warren's words from our Thursday call echoed back. He had told me, during a quiet moment in the hallway earlier that evening, that talented people often get punished for being capable. You're good at cooking, so they ask you to cook. You're flexible, so they assume you have infinite time. You don't complain, so they think you don't mind. But capabilities shouldn't be confused with obligations. He had said my contract was still valid, that my portfolio spoke for itself, and that I shouldn't have to prove myself in my own home. I walked back to the living room. Mom asked me to run to a coffee shop for one person's espresso. Madison said it was just one coffee. And I heard myself say the words I had never said before. It's never one thing. It's always one more thing. The room went quiet, all 50 guests watching. Mom tried to laugh it off, called me overwhelmed. I told her there was a difference between overwhelmed and exhausted. She said I was the only one free enough to say it. And I told her to say what she actually meant, that she thought my work didn't count, that what I did wasn't real. I looked around the room. Most of them had heard her say it an hour ago. Nobody disagreed. I pulled the apron over my head, folded it, and set it on the coffee table. "Dessert is in the fridge. Coffee is in the pot. You can handle it from here." I walked toward the door. Mom's voice turned desperate. "If you walk out, don't expect to come back." I stopped. Turned. "Okay." The silence that followed was absolute. I looked at the room full of people, apologized for the disruption, and told them the food was ready and to please enjoy the rest of their evening. I reached for the door handle. Elliot Warren appeared at the edge of my vision. He didn't say anything, just gave me the smallest nod. I stepped outside. The cool evening air hit my face. Behind me, I heard Jade say, "She'll be back. She always comes back." I pulled out my phone and replied to Warren's assistant. "Monday, 9 a.m. confirmed. Looking forward to signing the contract." Then I got in my car and drove away. For the first time in my life, I didn't look back. That Sunday night at 11, my aunt called me. A woman in a business suit had knocked on my parents' door and handed my mother a thick, formal envelope. It was Warren's assistant, delivering a copy of my full contract personally, along with a handwritten note. "Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, your daughter is one of the most gifted professionals I have had the privilege to work with. I hope you are as proud of her as I am to have her on my team. Regards, Elliot Warren." There was a postscript. "In my experience, the most talented people are often the most underestimated by those closest to them. Perhaps because excellence in unconventional forms makes us question our own assumptions." My mother dropped a glass. My father had to steady her. Jade read through the contract page by page and said nothing at all. Monday morning at Hartwell felt like stepping into a different life. Warren met me in the lobby personally, walked me to my office. An actual office with windows overlooking downtown, my name already on the door. 12 people were waiting in the conference room, my team. I was 28 years old and I had 12 people reporting to me. The board approved the full scope of work that afternoon without hesitation. Jade's partnership review was postponed 6 months. Her firm told her that partners represent their values. And right now, she was showing them she only valued what looked like her own path. My mother was quietly asked to take a break from her book club. My father had a long, silent golf round with a friend who spent the whole time talking about how proud he was of his daughter, the artist. 6 weeks later, a handwritten letter arrived from my mother. She had started it 17 times. She apologized without justifying. She told me she and my father and Jade had all started therapy. She wasn't asking me to forgive them. She just wanted me to know they were trying. A week after that, I texted her. Coffee. Public place. 1 hour. Next Saturday. She responded in 30 seconds. I arrived first, chose a table by the window, and waited. They walked in 10 minutes early, looking nervous. Nobody spoke for a full minute. Then my father said quietly, "We're really proud of you. I should have said that at your college graduation. I'm saying it now." I set 4 rules. No more being expected to work at family events without being properly asked. No more dismissing my career. If the boundaries were crossed, I would leave without drama, and this rebuilding would take time. The old version of our family dynamic was gone. My father reached across the table and asked if he could take my hand. I nodded. "We don't want the old dynamic back either," he said. "It wasn't fair to you." 3 months later, Jade made partner. She called me personally to invite me to the celebration dinner. No expectations, no requests for help. When we arrived, she introduced me to her colleagues and said, "This is my sister Nora. She's brand director at Hartwell Corporation. Probably the most talented designer in the region." She said it with genuine pride. We still had work to do, but it was a start.